Good morning to all of you. Good morning. Am I audible? Okay. Please keep your videos on. Okay. Now, uh, I hope all of you are aware about this that today we are going to start a module of history that is AMC, Ancient Medieval Art and Culture. Okay. Very good morning. Ancient Medieval Art and Culture. So we have to discuss this particular module of history, Ancient Medieval Art and Culture. I hope you all know this that in UPSC syllabus, particularly history, okay, this is an important module, and this history, okay, in UPSC syllabus we can divide it into three parts basically. One is AMC, that is Ancient Medieval Art and Culture, and the second module is Modern Indian History, okay, including Indian national movement, and the third part is world history. Third part is world history. So let's discuss a brief outline of the syllabus and then we will start our classes. Okay. So these are three different modules here: Ancient Medieval Art and Culture, Modern Indian History, okay, including this part that is Indian national movement. Okay. And the third is world history. Now this world history is also modern world history. Okay. And we all know about the three stages of examination. We all are familiar with this. Three stages of this examination. So the first is preliminary stage, the second is mains test, okay, an exam, and the third is interview. Now again here you need to understand is that this modern world history is asked only in mains exam. So this is important for mains exam only. This part is important for mains exam only, right? It means while preparing this special part that is modern world history, you need to develop skills to write subjective answers only. Okay, subjective answers only. So here we don't have any objective questions or MCQs. So this is a part of mains only. Okay, you all are familiar with this. This is a part of mains only. Now, this part, ancient, medieval, and culture, this is asked in prelims also, right? It's asked in prelims also and mains also. This modern Indian history, Indian national movement is asked in prelims also and mains also. This is asked in mains only. So this is a brief outline of three modules in the Indian history. Now we have to cover this module AMC, Ancient Medieval Art and Culture. So I will discuss first the syllabus of Ancient Indian History, which we are going to start here. So that is our module Ancient Medieval Art and Culture, right? AMC, Ancient History, Medieval Indian History, and here C means what? Art and culture. And here art and culture means what? The important themes, okay, from ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history, which are important for from cultural point of view. So basically that is art and culture, right? And if you will look at the previous year questions, you will find that from ancient and medieval Indian history, core cultural themes are being asked in examination. Basically core cultural themes UPSC used to ask in examination. For example, Indus Valley civilization. This is a part of, okay, our cultural heritage. So this Indus Valley civilization is a topic that's studied in ancient Indian history also, but it is more important from cultural point of view. Again, you will get questions from Vedic culture, and that Vedic culture is also a significant stage in the cultural history of India. And this Vedic culture is important for literature, right? We need to understand the society, we need to understand the religion, we need to understand the economy of this Vedic cultural phase. So this, if the question is asked from Vedic culture, basically the question is being asked from cultural part of Indian history. That is important point that we need to understand. Now, in the same way, Buddhism, Jainism, this is also part of our cultural history. So the questions are frequently asked from this part also. Buddhism, Jainism, okay. The questions are being asked from the Mauryan ruler Ashoka, edicts and inscriptions of Ashoka. The question will be asked from literature like Kautilya's Arthashastra, Megasthenes Indica, okay. The questions will be asked from important inscriptions in the ancient Indian history, right? So basically I will discuss all this syllabus in detail. First I want to say is that when we talk about ancient Indian history, always keep it in mind that here we are reading ancient Indian history, okay, with a particular mindset, and that is why what we need to identify important cultural developments in ancient Indian history, okay, and we need to identify this. We need to look at the PYQs, and then we will make a strategy that how to, okay, complete this particular area, right? So cultural themes also includes the themes like dance, like music, like puppetry, like martial art, and all this festivals, etc. All this, these are also part of cultural history. But now UPSC for the last 3 to 4 years is not more interested in these topics. UPSC is more interested in those cultural themes which are core cultural themes that are related to the historical development in ancient India and in medieval India. And when you compare that, what is more important here, ancient and medieval, obviously both are important, but ancient Indian history and cultural developments in ancient Indian history is now more focused. From medieval Indian history, the questions are being asked, but here the questions you will get are from keyword special. It means keywords. Some keywords based questions are being asked from medieval Indian history. For example, this might be a possibility that you will get question from Shesha Suri. You will get question from Akbar. You will get question from Vijayanagar Empire. You will get question from Bahmani Empire. So in medieval India, these are important cultural developments also, because Vijayanagar state was the first, okay, powerful Hindu state in South India. Akbar was a ruler who was having the most liberal religious outlook. So we need to understand that, okay. I know that you all are freshers, newcomers. So obviously when we will enter into the topics, you can understand these things in a better way, in a more effective way, right? So basically my suggestion is to first make a good plan, a good strategy, and then we should go with that strategy, okay. And one thing is very important for all of us, and that is question bank, okay, for prelims as well as question bank for the mains examination. So here question banks means PYQs, the collection of PYQs, previous year questions. And this is true in the case of history, that if you are preparing history for prelims, okay, and you developed a good command over PYQs, okay, of this particular segment AMC for the last 15 to 20 years, so you will be comfortable in the examination along with what we are going to study in the classes. So our classes, or you can say that class lectures, I will discuss all important themes. Thus apart from these themes, we also need to read NCERT books, but not all NCERT books, okay, NCERT books. So with particular chapters, there are some selected chapters in NCERT from some selected NCERT books. So I will tell you the name of those particular chapters and the name of those NCERT book when I will finish chapters. Like when I will finish chapter 1, I will tell you which NCERT book and which chapter we need to study, okay. And I have also designed my lectures strictly in accordance with the NCERT books also, okay. So you will find that in our classes all relevant portions of NCERT book and its chapters will be covered, okay. So I have designed my lecture in such a way that we will be able to cover all relevant portions from the NCERT book also, right? So now first we are going to discuss syllabus of, because here there are three parts. One is ancient Indian history, the second is medieval Indian history, and the third is art and culture. So this topic I will just keep in continuance with these modules. For example, when we will be covering ancient Indian history, we will discuss all the art and culture themes of ancient Indian history. When we will be discussing medieval Indian history, so here we will discuss all art and culture themes of medieval Indian history. So we will discuss it all together, right? So cultural themes we will discuss together. For example, if you must have heard about pillars of Ashoka, okay, land capital, okay, that is the national emblem also. So that is our culture. In ancient India, there was important development in administration during the Mauryan period. So Mauryan period administration, or there is an administration in Vedic period also. There are, you can say that, democratic institutions in Vedic period. So those democratic institutions in Vedic period, republics in Mahajanpada era, and the classical form of administration that developed during the Mauryans are part of our culture. Administration in medieval times, particularly during the time of Sultanate period, is also a part of our culture. Administration in Mughal period is also a part of our culture, and administration in British Indian history is also a part of our culture. So you get questions from administration. For example, this year question was asked from land revenue settlements of British in India. So that was what? Administration during the British Indian period. So all development in the administrative system and practices forms the part of our culture. Important books, literature in ancient India, in medieval Indian history, right? In modern Indian history, they all form the part of our culture. So basically we are reading ancient and medieval history, but basically we are focusing where? On culture. We will discuss about cave architecture. We will discuss about development of temple architecture in India. That is also a part of our culture, right? We will discuss about the stupa architecture. That is also a part of our culture. So these are important cultural developments in ancient Indian history. So before we start this module, okay, first I will start this particular area with ancient Indian history. First, we must be familiar with the name of the chapters which we are going to study. Okay. The second part of our lecture will be medieval Indian history. So I will discuss the name of chapters in medieval Indian history later. But since we are starting with ancient Indian history, so we must be familiar with which chapters we are going to study. What is the development? What is the time period? Okay. So we must have a general idea about a general timeline of what happened during the ancient Indian history, okay, phase. So we are going to discuss a brief outline of the name of the chapters which we are going to study, okay, right? And then I will also discuss about the sources, but I will discuss about the sources once I will conclude or finish, okay, at least one or two chapters, okay. Then I will discuss the sources, because then you can go to those sources and you will realize that yes, okay, we are learning something, and you can uh, evaluate your learning outcome also, right? So I will discuss the sources once I will finish one or two chapters, okay. We will do that. So here first let's discuss the name of the particular chapters, okay, which we are going to cover in Indian history, basically ancient Indian history. So we are going to start with this particular part, that is ancient Indian history. Now I will discuss a timeline with you, and that timeline is a general timeline, because in ancient Indian history, okay, the timeline of different phases is also subject to historical debates. So we will Just take a simple timeline, general timeline, and on the basis of that timeline, we will try to reconstruct our understanding of the developments in this historical phase. Okay, so ancient Indian history. So first, before entering into the syllabus part, okay, I will discuss three words with you. These are the keywords. One word is known as prehistory, right? One word is prehistory, right? Prehistory. The second word is proto-history. The second word here is proto-history, and the third word here is history. So there are three important words here, keywords here. One word is prehistory, the second is proto-history, and the third is history. Okay, can you define what is prehistory? Any one of you? Can you define what is prehistory, what is proto-history? Some of you might be knowing the definitions. Okay, unmute yourself. Yes. Exactly. And what is proto-history? And what is history? Right. So देखो, what, for example, Hardik, right? Are you Hardik? Okay. Okay, okay. So Hardik has given a definition of prehistory, proto-history, and history. But in his definition, he was using some particular words. Okay. And those particular words are records for knowing history. That is important thing. That we are talking about ancient Indian history. What happened thousands of years back. Okay. So how we get the information of those past events that took place thousands of years back? So basically, when we talk about the sources, okay, for example, sources. What are the sources? Okay, what are the sources to know Indian history? Basically, ancient Indian history. So these sources can be broadly categorized into two parts, right? One part is called archaeological sources. Keep writing this, maintain your running notes, and this notes will be, you can say, sufficient enough. Okay, notes plus practice of PYQ. So your class notes are going to be one of the most important part here. With classes, you will be able to make your notes also. To do this, don't do that this task step separately. So archaeological sources. And the second broad division here is literary source. So there basically there are two group of sources. Okay, if we will categorize in you can say broad categorization. So one is archaeological sources and the second is what? Literary sources. Now when we talk about archaeological sources, what does it mean? It means that the archaeologists excavate something. Okay, and by excavating, for example digging the ground, okay, different layers of the soil are removed. Okay, and by these excavations we get some objects. This might be grave also, the contents of the grave also. This might be the coins which were used by the people thousands of years back, right? This might be pottery which the people were using thousands of years back. Okay, this might be some kind of jewelry which the people were using thousands of years back, right? So we get such kind of evidences. We get the remains of the bones also. This might be a possibility that you are excavating, you discovered a grave, and that grave contains the skeleton's bone remains. That grave contains some objects in the grave. It can be some tools and implements used by those people. It can be stone tool and implement. It can be metal tools and implements, right? It can be hand axe, it can be cleaver, it can be, you can say, arrowheads, right? So different kind of tools and implements can be discovered. By looking at these tools and implements, we can reconstruct the history of that period. We will study it, and on the basis of our assumptions, okay, and by connecting different sources all together, okay, we just assume a picture of which kind of social life, which kind of political life, which kind of economic life the people were having at that time. That is called archaeological sources. Okay, for example, suppose you get a big piece of stone and something has been written or inscribed on that big piece of stone. For example, it may be what? Ashoka's edicts. A big piece of stone, something has been written or inscribed. This might be possible that on a metal plate, on a copper plate, something has been written or inscribed. Okay, so if something has been written on copper plate, something has been inscribed on copper plate, that will be called copper plate inscription. Something has been inscribed on stone, right? Something has been written on stone, so that will be called stone inscription. If something has been written on, okay, an iron pillar, a pillar has been made, the pillar is made up of iron, so that will be called iron pillar inscription. Something has been written on a stone pillar, that again will be called stone pillar inscription. Something has been written on coins, some marks, some symbols have been inscribed, that will be called coin inscription. Got it? So we also get coins from the archaeological excavation. Okay, so these things can be archaeological sources also. At the same time, if something has been written, so this can be literary source also. So a basic understanding, obviously we will discuss a lot of examples in our classes about archaeological sources, about literary sources. So here we are just getting a simple idea. So when we talk about archaeological sources, it simply means what? Okay, archaeological excavation. We are talking here about archaeological excavations, and through these archaeological excavations, if we get graves, if we get grave objects, right, if we get other objects, so all these things will be categorized as archaeological sources. Stone tools, implements, bone tools and implements. Animal horns were used to make stone tools, tools and implements. So all these will be categorized in archaeological sources, right? Grave culture, we use a word. What do you mean by that, grave culture? From archaeological excavation, we get a grave and studied about the age of the skeleton. Okay, there are studies about DNA of that particular human being, kis phase se tha, from where he came, all these things. These are a part of archaeological excavation. Got it? From example, for example, recently you must have read it, this is frequently in news, that Rakhi Gadi in Haryana, okay, is an Indus Valley civilization center. There are archaeological excavations have been done. There is another place in Farmana. Farmana is in Haryana. In 2006, 7, 8, this period, excavations were done in Farmana. And historians have discovered many important objects, and through which they will get an idea about what are the cultural developments during the Indus Valley civilization period in that Farmana region. From Rakhi Gadi, human skeletons have been found, and now the DNA analysis of those human skeletons, okay, will change the entire perception about the Indus Valley civilization of that particular area. NCERT has also announced that from 2024 onwards, we are going to include, this is addition in NCERT books that will be published in 2024, archaeological excavations at Rakhi Gadi. Okay, and different assumptions that can be made on the basis of the DNA study, DNA analysis. So that will be included in NCERT book. So obviously this topic is a topic of current affair, At the same time, now this will be included in NCERT book. So we must know what happened in Rakhi Gadi. This can be a prelims question in the year 2025. So while discussing Indus Valley Civilization, I will discuss about Rakhi Gadi, I will discuss about Farmana, I will discuss about important archaeological excavations that took place in this period and what are the different conclusions that can be derived out of these archaeological excavations, and we must know this, right? This is also a part of our general awareness. You must know about excavations at Rakhi Gadi. Are you getting my point? So suppose epigraphic evidences, write this word, epigraphic evidences. Epigraphic evidences, these are also part of archaeological evidences, epigraphic evidences. In the same way, numismatics, okay, numismatics, this is also a part of archaeological, okay. And most importantly, architectural remains, this is also part of archaeological sources, architectural remains. For example, you discovered a site at Harappa, a site at Mohenjo-daro, and after excavation you found the remains of an entire city from Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Remains of an entire city has been discovered. I am not talking about a house, I am talking about archaeological remains of an entire city has been discovered, Harappa and Mohenjo. Okay, so we get the structure, archaeological remains of an entire city. We'll study it and we'll find that this was one of the most earliest urban civilization, not only of India, but it was one of the most earliest civilization of the world. And there were some other contemporary civilizations at that time. For example, there was Mesopotamia, there was Egypt, but Indus Valley civilization was larger than these civilizations in terms of the geographical area. If you will combine Mesopotamian civilization and Egyptian civilization, you will find that Indus Valley civilization in terms of geographical area was larger than the combined areas of both Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilization. So are you getting what I mean to say? That in India, Indus Valley civilization was one of the earliest urban civilizations in the world. Is this a kind of, will it fuel a kind of cultural pride in the minds of the Indian people? Yes, it was needed, because it was discovered in 1920s when India was under colonial rule and British were trying to impose the racism on the Indian people. They were claiming of racial superiority. The British in India were considering Indians as the inferior cultural groups and Europeans as the superior cultural groups. So they were trying to fuel a kind of sense of inferiority in the minds of the Indian people. So fighting that kind of mentality was also the need of the time, right? So how this can be done? So obviously the researchers in history will also promote the cultural pride among the minds of the people. So we must know our history, our culture. That's why it has been included in our UPSC syllabus. We must have a good understanding of our history, and especially when you are going to be a bureaucrat, an administrator, so you must have a good understanding of history, right? उस केस में तो और भी ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है. Okay, now what I mean to say here is that I have used some technical words here. For example, I have used the word epigraph, I have used the word numismatics. So we also need to understand what is the meaning of those particular words, right? So this word is epigraphy. This word is epigraphy, and what is the meaning of that word? We need to understand. Epigraphy. Epigraphy is the study and interpretation of ancient inscription. What is inscription? A piece of writing. That is also called what? Epigraphs. Okay, any piece of writing. For example, I am using the word epigraphs. So what is this epigraph? Epigraph means any piece of writing. Very simply, we can say that epigraph is what? Any piece of writing. And any piece of writing is also called what? Inscription. देखो कितना आसान है. This is a very easy concept. Epigraphs are any piece of writing, and any piece of writing is also what? Inscription. Right? Now, just imagine the developments in ancient India. Ancient India में development कैसे हुआ होगा? How the people used to write in ancient India? First, they have got some knowledge about some writing practice, and when they will start writing, how they will start writing? कैसे लिख सकते हैं? What is the possibility where they can write? What could be the material on which the people could write? Just answer me. Can you assume something? Stone. Very good. Very good. Stone. Any other student? Any other point? Yes, please. Leaves. Okay. Basically, palm leaves were used for writing purpose. Got it? Okay. So palm leaves were used. Any other point? No. Yes. Yes. Cloth पे भी लिखा जाएगा, but it will come much later, right? So initially, basically, palm leaves were used. Okay. Then rocks, manuscripts. Very good. Rocks, manuscripts are also important developments here, right? Now, palm leaves will be used. Then bark of a tree, and the name of that tree was birch tree. Bark of a tree, and the name of that tree was birch tree. Yes, 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 Bharat. Very good. और notes मेरी class में लिखते रहना, because this is the 1 or 2 classes will be introductory, but after this you are going to get all the essence of ancient and medieval Indian history in the classes itself. It will save your time. You will not need to read a lot of books. Okay. Okay. Now, bark of a tree, that is known as birch tree. This can also be used. Okay. Ankit, tree barks. Yes, this can be used. Palm leaves can be used. Now, can we say that the stone, you can say that pieces of stone may be used? Yes, pieces of stone may be used. Now, suppose the people are familiar with the use of metal. The people are familiar with the use of copper. The people are familiar with the use of metal. So can they use these metals, okay, as also the, you can say that material for writing? Yes, metals can also be used here, right? Metals can also be used. For example, something may be written where? On copper plate. Something may be written on what? Iron, piece of iron. Okay. Suppose you constructed an iron pillar and you wrote something on it. For example, there is a cave, and on the walls of the cave you have written something. So that something you have written, that is called inscription. Suppose the people are familiar with metal, the people are familiar with gold, the people are familiar with silver, the people are familiar with copper. So they can write something on the gold coins also, copper coins also, silver coins also. So on the coins also the people will use to write something, right? So if you are writing something, that is what? Inscription. कुछ भी लिख रहे हो तो क्या हो गया वो? Inscription. Now, I am just giving you the names. For example, here we are writing on stone, so that will be what? Stone inscription. Stone inscription. First, we need to understand the keywords in ancient Indian history. It's very easy. Entire module is very easy. Palm leaves, obviously these are also inscriptions. Mark of birch tree, something has been written. Now tell me that whatever that has been written on palm trees or bark of birch trees, what about the durability? It is more durable or less durable? It is less durable. So if anything is less durable, okay, so you need to copy it again and again, because there was no any printing press at that time, there was no any paper at that time. Suppose you have written something on palm leaves and it's less durable, so it might be possible that when it will start decomposing, you will do what? Okay, when it will start decomposing, you will copy it on some another palm leaves, right? So the less durable material need to be copied again and again. And when you will copy again and again, are there chances of some additions and deletions? Yes or no? Are there chances of some additions or deletions? You take the notes of your friend and you are rewriting it. So you may include some new points and you may remove some other points which you consider are not necessary or are more important. You can do it. कर सकते हो ना? So what about the originality? Originality of these inscriptions will be compromised or not? Yes, they will be compromised. So in ancient India, if the people were using basically two kind of material. One was called soft material, right? And one was called hard material. One word called soft material and another was called hard material. What is soft material? This is soft material. Palm leaves is soft material. Bark of birch tree is soft material. What is hard material? So these stone inscriptions, stone edicts, okay, copper plate inscriptions, iron pillar inscriptions, coin inscriptions, these are more durable. So durability, okay, because they have written on hard material or the surface. Something you have written on cave walls, so that is more durable, that can survive for thousands of years. Got it? So what we see, which out of these two, anything that has been written on soft material and anything that has been written in hard material, which one is the more authentic source of information? This one. Exactly. That is the most authentic source of information. So for this particular period, ancient Indian history, right, these things that has been written on hard material are the most authentic source of information. It means when UPSC will ask question, they will definitely ask question from inscription. They can ask questions from inscriptions of Ashoka, Ashoka's pillar inscriptions, Samudragupta Prayag Prashasti inscription, a whole inscription, right? Mehrauli pillar inscription. So why UPSC used to ask questions, try to understand that, okay, psyche. The reason kya, why they are asking question from inscription. So now this point is clear in your mind that while reading NCERT books or anything, if you get something, some details about some inscriptions, you must be alert that this will be important for our exam. This is important. Hard material inscriptions, they are one of the most authentic source of information about the developments in ancient Indian history, because okay, here originality will not be compromised. Chances of okay altering the information are minimal, but here okay originality may be compromised. So these are the more authentic sources of information. Now some students are asking question in chat box that sir, edicts and inscriptions are same. Are they same? तो यहीं पे आंसर कर देता हूँ, otherwise I will be discussing this in Mauryan period also. So look here, there are two words. One is called edicts and the second is called inscriptions. Are they the same? So in general, I am writing a word. In general, they are used as synonymous, but in technical sense, they are not synonymous. They are not synonymous. In general, the people use it, okay, as synonymous, but in technical sense, they are not synonymous. Why? There is a reason. And what is that reason? Look here. Inscription. If something has been written on a hard material, something has been written on hard material. So one point I have written here, something that has been written on hard material. Okay, any piece of writing is called inscription. So here we are using a particular context. Something has been written on hard material, and okay, read this. And it's not in the form of imperial order or royal order. Not in the form of imperial order or royal order. So this is called inscription, right? Now, if something has been written on a hard material, something has been written on hard material, it may be okay iron pillar, it may be stone, right? And it has what? It is in the form of royal order or imperial order. So that will be called edict. That will be called edict. Anything, for example, during Ashoka's times, Ashoka used, okay, stones as the medium to establish communication with the masses. There was no radio at that time to do Man Ki Baat. There was no Twitter. Okay, there were no social networking sites. There were no websites like PIB and all this. So what the ruler will do? In order to establish communication with the masses, the ruler Ashoka came with the most unique and innovative idea, and that was what? Writing something on big pieces of stones. And these big pieces of stones were placed at different corners of his empire. So if the writing, in that writing, if anything is of the nature of royal order for the people, so that will be called Ashoka's stone edicts or rock edicts. They will be called rock edicts, something that is in the form of royal order. That will be called rock edict. Again, it is made up of stone. But something that is not in the form of royal order, that will be called what? A stone inscription. Okay? For example, you went to visit some hilly areas. चले गए आप बराबर नागार्जुनी केव्स देखने के लिए या अजंता एलोरा, ठीक है, लाल किला ही चले गए. एंड यू इंस्क्राइब द नेम ऑफ समवन हु लाइक मोस्ट, ठीक है, किसी ऐसे का नाम लिख दिया जिसको आप बहुत पसंद करते हो. इज इट रॉयल ऑर्डर? नो. Something you have written, any name you have written on the walls, okay, so that will be what? Stone inscription. The anything that is not royal in nature. So in this way, this is the basic difference. But here, if something that has been written on coins, so that will also be called what? Coin inscription. Okay, so this is the basically the technical definition. Got it? Any doubt? Clear? Okay, Nitin? Yes, please.
Sir.
Actually, edicts are used in a particular context. For example, in Ashoka's chapter, you will find these names. Ashoka's edicts. There are major edicts, there are minor edicts, right? So that particular difference you will see during the Ashoka's chapter. I have told you earlier that in general, we are using these two words as a synonymous, but there is a particular difference when we read this chapter, Ashoka. For example, something that has been written on coins. So coin is released by the state. So obviously it will have an imperial value, but generally the coins are known as coin inscriptions. We will not use this word coin edict. Galat ho jayega. Got it? Okay. I hope you have got it. Okay. So this is what inscription. And now if people are writing something in ancient India, so this must be possible that they are familiar with style of writing. And what is style of writing? Style of writing is known as script. That is known as script. Style of writing is script. For example, in Indus Valley civilization, the style of writing was pictographic. I will discuss it later. So the style of writing was what? Pictographic. You are writing something. So the style of writing, okay, is called script. In Indus Valley civilization, there was a script that is called pictographic. I will discuss about that in Indus Valley Civilization chapter. But the other forms of script, popular forms of script in ancient India, we will discuss this also later, where Aramaic script, Greek script, Kharoshthi script, Brahmi script. You must have heard these words. Aramaic script, Greek script, Kharoshthi script, right? Brahmi script. The languages that were used by people in ancient India were the language like Pali, Prakrit, right? Sanskrit. Okay, so the people, so all these are related to different developments of those time. Okay, so obviously we will enter these details and we'll discuss later, right? So I hope you have got this idea that when we are talking about archaeological evidences, so this will include a lot of things. Okay, and now the second thing is what? Okay, numismatics. Numismatics is what? So epigraphy is what? Okay, this definition. What is epigraphy? Epigraphy is the study of what? Epigraphs. That is known as epigraphy. Epigraphy is the study of, okay, any piece of writing, inscription. That is epigraphy. In the same way, there is another word, that is numismatics. I have written here the word numismatics. So what is the meaning of numismatics? Can you tell me, any one of you? This is very easy. This can also be very good. So write this. The study of coins, okay, is known as numismatics. Okay, the study of coins is known as numismatics. Now tell me, the development of coins is an important part of our cultural development or not? Yes, this is an important part of our cultural development. When the coins started, what was the material that was used in the coins? Which ruler issued first gold coins? Which ruler issued first silver coins? All this is an important part of our cultural development. So basically, while reading ancient Indian history, we also need to focus on what? These coins. Got it? Okay. So obviously we will discuss it. Okay. So when we'll move ahead in the classes, we'll learn the chapters, we will obviously discuss it. Okay. Now, in the same way, now in these archaeological excavations, okay, simply I have written here a word, that is archaeological excavation, objects, other objects. So here we can get what? Tools and implements. This can be stone tools and implements. This can be metal tools and implements. This can be bone tools and implements. That is archaeological excavation, the goods that we get from these archaeological excavations. Got it? Stone tools and implements, metal tools and implements, bone tools and implements. In the same way, we can get what? Pottery, remains of pottery. In the same way, we can get some artifacts, we can get some jewelry, we can get some other artifacts, right? We can get human skeletons, we can get animal skeletons. Okay, we can get structural remains of the buildings. So all these are the part of archaeological excavations, and they give us important information about the ancient Indian history, historical period. And now the second part is what? Literary sources. What are the literary sources? Literary sources are literature, something that has been written. Okay, so obviously if anything is written on stone inscription, that may also form the part of literature. For example, you must have heard these words also: Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, Kautilya's Arthashastra, Megasthenes Indica, right? So these are what? Examples of literature. Okay, something that has been written by Greek travelers in India, right? That is also a piece of literature. So basically these are two important sources of knowing the history. And here we were discussing about three branches of history. One is prehistory, second is proto-history, and the third is history. So prehistory simply means that, okay, the phase of the history, this is a particular phase of the history, and our knowledge about this particular phase of history is dependent on archaeological evidences only, right? Our knowledge about this particular phase of history is dependent on archaeological evidences only. So there are no literary records available here. So no literary records are available here. No literary records are available here. Now what is proto-history? Proto-history means here the phase of the history. This is the phase of the history where archaeological evidences are also available. Literary records are also available. Both are available, right? Archaeological evidences are also available and literary records are also available. But here the problem is that these literary records, we are not able to decipher what has been written in those literary records. क्या लिखा हुआ है हम ये पढ़ नहीं पाए. Something has been written, but we fail in deciphering what has been written. So here literary records are available. Literary records are available, but there is a problem with these literary records. These literary records have not been deciphered. These literary records have not been deciphered, right? This literary record have not been deciphered, and the example of this phase is Indus Valley civilization. Indus Valley civilization. This chapter we will discuss later. Indus Valley civilization. So in Indus Valley civilization, there is a script that has been discovered, and this script is pictographic in nature. This script is what? Pictographic in nature. Something that has been written in the form of some symbols, marks, impressions, or the pictures. Pictographic. But the historians fail to study. ये क्या लिखना चाहते थे? Indus Valley civilization. IVC people, they fail to study. So this is the problem. So this phase of history, IVC, is considered in proto-history period. Okay. And this prehistory is what? Earliest phase of history. Earliest phase of history of human development. Earliest phase of history of human development. That is the earliest phase. That is the beginning. When the different cultures, the people started living in groups, the people were previously hunting, they started growing food grains, they started making, okay, huts for themselves. How, which kind of huts, the cattle pens were made. Okay, so this is that phase of life, earliest phase of life, right? And what about history? History means all. Archaeological evidences available, literary sources available, okay? Isme sab hai. That is the phase of history. Okay, and this will start from Vedic culture onwards. Now there is a debate in history that Vedic culture को इसमें include करे कि नहीं, because that was the oral tradition of knowledge at that time. So we are not entering into that particular debate. Simply you will know that Vedic culture and onwards we can classify it as a part of history. ठीक है? तो उस particular debate पे हम नहीं जाएंगे, but you can just read this. So have you got understanding of these three words, right? Prehistory, proto-history and history. मैं बहुत slow तो नहीं हूँ ना? My pace is very slow, तो मैं थोड़ा सा इसको कर दूँ fast forward. Write in chat box, okay? Or I'm very slow in my lectures. Okay, ज़्यादा slow हो तो बता देना, ठीक है? You have to write your notes also. Okay, तो ये ध्यान रखना है. That's why I am a little bit slow here. Okay, now the second important thing, name of the chapters, right? The name of the chapters, name of the chapters, name of the chapters. Especially we are discussing ancient Indian history. So देखो, your syllabus starts with a chapter that is Indus Valley civilization. This is the first chapter in your syllabus. Indus Valley civilization. This is the first chapter. Indus Valley civilization is the first chapter. So UPSC has mentioned this chapter, but before this period, the development are called prehistoric phase of history. So before this, the development is prehistoric phase. Prehistoric phase. It has not been clearly mentioned in your syllabus, but without understanding the prehistoric phase development, you cannot learn Indus Valley civilization better. Concepts आपके clear नहीं होंगे, right? And from this prehistoric phase, there are important cultural development points. For example, development of painting, natural cave paintings, Bhimbetka cave paintings, Lakudiyar paintings in Uttarakhand, right? Paintings in Mirzapur. So there are cave paintings, and that is a part of painting. Earliest paintings. So earliest painting is what? Culture. So that is important from cultural point of view. Plus, without understanding this prehistoric phase development, we cannot understand that how this Indus Valley civilization came to picture. So this is not included in our syllabus, but we need to study this. So write this. This is not in syllabus, but we need to study. But we need to study. So in this sense, this will be now your first chapter. This now will become your second chapter. So we have changed the chronology. Okay, so we'll not skip that part because that is very important. So this is Indus Valley Civilization, second chapter, right? Third chapter is Vedic culture. Here we are using a word culture. So this is what? Vedic culture. That is the third chapter. I will also discuss the important themes and all this. Timeline also. The fourth chapter is Mahajanpada era. Read this. The fourth chapter here is Mahajanpada era. Right. The fifth chapter here is Mauryan period. This is the fifth chapter, that is Mauryan period. This is Indus Valley Civilization. This is Vedic culture. This is Mahajanpada era. This is Mauryan period. Right? Mauryan period. Now, the next chapter is Later Mauryan phase. Later Mauryan phase or Later Mauryan period. Here we need to study important developments in this phase. Important developments in this phase. Basically, we will read about cultural development, right? Later Mauryan phase or the period. The next chapter here is Gupta period. Gupta period, right? The next chapter is Post Gupta phase. Post Gupta phase. Post Gupta phase. Post Gupta phase. And then after this, the next chapter will be early medieval phase. Early medieval phase. Important developments in early medieval phase. Important developments in early medieval phase. And then what will start? So that is called medieval Indian history. Then we will see medieval Indian history. This is what? Medieval Indian history. Again, it is divided into two parts. One is Sultanate period. One is Sultanate period history. And the second part is Mughal period history. So one is Sultanate period history and the second is what? Mughal period history. Clear? So basically we are going to discuss in detail the previous developments. Now you are familiar with the name. Now I will discuss the time period. Then I will discuss important themes that we need to study in that particular chapter. So that is the next part of our discussion. Now I am going to discuss the time period, a general timeline of all these chapters. So write this general timeline. So here we are going to discuss general timeline. General timeline. Okay, this we are going to discuss. The first phase was prehistory, and you need to remember all the facts in the class itself, right? Tomorrow never comes. Prehistory. So we need to discuss important developments in prehistory, right? Now I will discuss the concepts later. Okay, first I am discussing the timeline. ठीक है ना? What is the prehistory? Chapters में concepts I will discuss later. So देखो, this prehistory is also known as Stone Ages. This prehistory is also known as Stone Ages. Why it is called Stone Ages? Because the main archaeology here, what is the source of historical information? The source of historical information is what? Archaeological evidences, right? No written records available. And in these archaeological evidences, okay, the majority of the evidences are majority of evidences, or you can say that main evidence is what? Stone tools and implements. Stone tools and implements. There are other evidences as well. दूसरे evidence भी हैं. There is isolated bits of pottery, skeleton remains, paintings. But what is the majority of evidences? The most important evidences. So the most important evidences is stone tool and implements. These are the most important evidences. Okay. So since these are the most important evidences, to reconstruct history of that particular phase. That's why this is also known as stone ages. It does not mean that only stone tools हैं. There are bone tools also. But since these stone tools are primary and the most important, that's why we are calling it stone ages. Got it? Prehistory is also called stone ages. Now this is a phase of this phase of history, or this developments in the phase of history belong to lakhs of years. Okay, so it will become very confusing for students also, for historians also, to trace the development in lakhs of years. So in order to make the study more comfortable, so that we can easily trace out the development, this entire stone phase has been divided into 3 subparts. Read this, 3 subparts of this stone age. 3 subparts have been divided. So one subpart is Paleolithic era or phase. Paleolithic era or phase. The second is called Mesolithic era. The second is called Mesolithic era. Mesolithic era. And the third is called Neolithic era. So there are 3 important phases here: Paleolithic era, Mesolithic era, and Neolithic era. Now, what is the meaning of paleo? Paleo means old, ancient, or earliest. Paleo means old, ancient, or earliest. And lithic here, this word has been formed by this word lithos. And lithos means what? Stone. Lithos means what? Stone. So what is Paleolithic? The earliest phase of stone age. Stone age का सबसे पहले वाला हिस्सा, सबसे पुराना development. So this Paleolithic is what? The earliest phase of stone age. This is the earliest phase of stone age. Clear? Now this word Mesolithic. So meso means what? Meso means middle. Meso means what? Middle. And again lithic word has been formed from lithos. So this is what? Mid phase or middle phase of lithos or stone age. So this is what? This is middle phase. This is middle phase. ये बीच का समय है. And what is the meaning of neo? Neo means new. Neo means new or latest. So this is the newest phase or latest phase of stone age. Stone age का सबसे बाद वाला हिस्सा. So this is the newest phase or latest phase. Newest phase or latest phase of stone age. Newest phase or latest phase of stone age. So बहुत this कहानी बहुत simple है. Paleolithic, oldest, earliest. Mesolithic, in between. And Neolithic is the latest phase of cultural development. That is Neolithic. So this is Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. Are you understanding this? Now we need to study the time period. And now here the time period of division of time is also subject to historical debates. So different group of historians consider different timeline. So the timeline which I will discuss, you might get some other timeline in other book, some other timeline in other book. So we don't need to be confused. What I am going to discuss the timeline, this you will remember, because all the timeline is will, you can say, support the facts and the incidents. So I have selected those timelines which will be helpful, okay, for us for the linkages of the topics, and these are okay accepted by a larger group of historians. So that's why I am discussing only those timeline, okay, जिस पे ज़्यादा लोग agree करते हैं. For example, Paleolithic period, write the timeline. The timeline is from 5 lakh BC, 5 lakh BC to, from 5 lakh BC to 10,000 BC. From 5 lakh BC to 10,000 BC. I am writing a word here, BC. I will explain it later. 5 lakh BC to 10,000 BC. It means this phase is a phase of how many years? So this phase is a phase of 4 lakh 90,000 years. देखो 4,90,000 years. So this is a prolonged phase of history. इतना ज़्यादा time है, 4,90,000 year. Now this Mesolithic period is from 10,000 BC, 10,000 BC to 8,000 BC, 10,000 BC to 8,000 BC. So this is a phase of almost 2,000 years. This is a phase of almost 2,000 years. And this Neolithic phase of history is from 8,000 BC to 4,000 BC. So this is a phase of almost how much year? So 4,000 years. 8,000 BC to 4,000 BC. This is a phase of almost 4,000 years. Okay. Got it? Now, tell me which is the most prolonged phase in history here, Stone Age में. So this is the prolonged phase. सबसे लंबा time period है ये prolonged phase. Which phase is the shortest duration or phase? So this Mesolithic phase. ये क्या है? Shortest duration Mesolithic phase, shortest duration. Now tell me one thing, that studying cultural developments during a phase of 4,90,000 years is an easy task or difficult one? It's a difficult one. So again, historians will do what? They will subclassify this phase. They will further subclassify it into 3 periods. They will further subclassify, and here they will use the words like subclassification. This is what? Subclassification. Why this subclassification is done? You understand the reason. Why this subclassification is done? Because this is a prolonged phase. That's why this subclassification is done. And now what is the word here? So this is Lower Paleolithic. Lower Paleolithic phase. The second is Middle Paleolithic phase. Middle Paleolithic. The third is Upper Paleolithic. Upper Paleolithic phase. Here you don't need to know the dates, okay, but you must know the divisions. This name, the words are important for you. So we are not going to further write the dates here, okay, that is not needed, but simply we need to know the meaning and the words, keywords. Lower Paleolithic is the earliest phase in Paleolithic era. Paleolithic era का सबसे पहले वाला पुराना वाला समय, so that is the earliest phase. Lower Paleolithic is what? Earliest phase, सबसे पुराना time है. This is mid phase, and this is what? New or latest. This is new phase or latest phase in Paleolithic. Got it? Clear or not? Paleolithic is the earliest. It has been further subclassified. The reason is that it's a prolonged period in 3 parts: Lower Paleolithic, earliest, Mid Paleolithic, and Upper Paleolithic. Upper Paleolithic is the latest phase. I'm not writing the years here, okay, only you need to know the words. Got it? Now you are familiar with the timeline. I will discuss the concepts later, right? So this is the timeline here. Now there is another phase of history that is called Chalcolithic, right? Chalcolithic phase. Chalcolithic. So here we are using 2 words. One word is calco and lithos. So calco plus lithos. Calco means what? Copper. Plus lithos means what? Stone. So here, why this phase has been named as Chalcolithic? So there is a reason. And what is that reason? Here the tools and implements. Basically, here what is the important source of information? Historical information, tools and implements. And majority of these tools and implements are made up of copper plus stone or copper. So here we are talking about the content of these tools and implements. Bana kaise? So copper and stone. Copper is what? A metal. Copper is what? A metal. So this is the first metal using culture. This is the first metal using culture also. The people are using what? Copper. So this is a metal using culture. This is cultural advancement or not? Do you consider it as a cultural advancement? Yes. Previously the people were using stone as the material for their tools and implements. Now they are using metals, so they must be knowing metallurgy, metallurgical skills, knowledge about the ores, knowledge about the mining. So this is a what? More advanced cultural phase of life. कि लोगों को स्टोन के बाद किसका पता चला? मेटल का पता चला. So this is a more advanced cultural phase of life. This is Chalcolithic period. And what is the time period of this Chalcolithic age? So write this. The time period is, today's class will be a little bit boring because we have not entered the theme, right? But this is important, right? That we must know the developments. So the time period is 4000 BC to 1500 BC. This is the time period of Chalcolithic phase. 4000 BC to 1500 BC. ये है Chalcolithic phase. Got it? Okay. Now another important point. During this phase, during this period, it means during this phase, okay, another cultural advancement was seen. During this phase, another cultural advancement was seen. And what is that cultural advancement? The people learned to make alloys. What is alloy? Any one of you? Can you explain what is alloy? Alloy. Exactly. Now tell me, this is cultural advancement or not? Previously the people were familiar with the use of metals. Now they are doing what? Okay. Mixture of metals, right? Different metals are used together. Okay. So that is what? Okay. Here, this is another cultural advancement. And what is that cultural advancement? The people started using bronze. The people started using bronze. The people started using bronze. So the people started bronze. So this is be called bronze using culture or bronze culture. That will also be called what? Bronze using culture or bronze culture. And what is bronze? Simply, we can write copper plus tin is equal to what? Bronze. Copper plus tin is equal to bronze. And bronze is what? An alloy. Bronze is what? An alloy. So copper plus tin is equal to bronze, and here bronze is an alloy. Bronze to alloy hai. It means the metallurgical skills of the people are now more advanced. They have learned to make alloys also. This shows what? Okay, the skills, the metallurgical skills now are more advanced. The metallurgical skills are now more advanced. Okay? And this bronze using culture was Indus Valley civilization, right? This Indus Valley civilization. People were using bronze. IVC people were using bronze. Indus Valley civilization people were using bronze. So Indus Valley civilization is also known as Bronze Age culture. Very simple. So IVC people were using bronze. So this IVC people culture, okay, is also known as Bronze Age culture. This is also known as Bronze Age culture. And Bronze Age culture is an advanced cultural life. It also indicates towards urban life. There are other evidences of this urban life also, which I will discuss in that particular chapter. So the time period of Indus Valley civilization, that is the next chapter, is what? So here I am writing the time period of urban culture of Indus Valley civilization. देखो, शहर अचानक से नहीं आ जाता है. The urban centers will not evolve all of a sudden. शहर अचानक बन जाते हैं? बताओ, दिल्ली को अगर आप इफ यू लुक 200 years back, तो दिल्ली वाज नॉट लाइक दैट. So different rural settlements will grow, develop, integrate with each other. Then there will be block-like settlements. Then there will be town-like settlements. Then the urban settlements will be there. So they will not come all of a sudden. So urban settlements will gradually develop. So here what the time period I am going to write is what? The urban phase of Indus Valley civilization. And that is, right, 2350 BC to 1750 BC. You will remember this date because we will be able to construct the developments of the later chapter on the basis of this. So this is Indus Valley civilization, IVC period. So IVC period is what? 2350 BC to 1750 BC phase. Have you written? Now look here, a many important point here that is to be noticed here, that do you think that IVC phase is the part of Chalcolithic cultural development phase? Yes or no? Look at the sketch. IVC phase, is it the part of Chalcolithic cultural development phase? Yes or no? Exactly. Because this is the Chalcolithic period, 4000 BC to 1500 BC. And what is the IVC period? IVC देखो इसके बीच का टाइम पीरियड है, 2350 BC to 1750 BC period. Got it? ठीक है. So this is during this Chalcolithic age. I will discuss the concepts later. That Chalcolithic cultures were the rural cultural settlements. Indus Valley civilization was urban, so I will discuss it later. First, focus on remembering the timeline. That is important. Okay. So now you are familiar now that Chalcolithic phase from 4000 to 1500 BC and Indus Valley civilization from 2350 BC to 1750 BC. Is it clear? Bharat, I will discuss the topic in detail. Wait, अभी तो हम chapter के नाम देख रहे हैं, right? Now, the next part. The next chapter is Vedic culture. The next chapter is Vedic culture. Our focus here is to remember the timeline first, to identify which themes we have to study in which chapter, and then I will discuss in detail chapters. Vedic culture phase, Vedic culture. Now we are using a word here, culture. Previously we have used the word civilization. Here we are using word culture. I will discuss later the meaning of culture. Basically this was rural in nature. This was rural in nature. I will discuss it later, that why it was rural in nature. So write the timeline. The timeline is 1500 BC to 600 BC. 1500 BC to 600 BC. So this is a time period of almost how much year? 900 years. This is a gap of 900 years. 1500 BC to 600 BC. Have you written this? And now an important point here. The previous chapter was Indus Valley civilization. And what was the time period of Indus Valley civilization? 2350 BC to 1750 BC. So here IVC, urban phase, this is what? End of urban phase. End of urban phase. And the new chapter starts from 1500 BC. So obviously there is a gap here. What we see? There is a gap of almost 250 years. Look here, Indus Valley civilization 2350 BC to 1750 BC. Vedic culture starts from 1500 BC period. So there is a gap of almost 250 years. Why this gap? Gap क्यों है? So this gap is the transition phase. I will discuss later what is the transition phase. So simply write in your notes, this gap is what? Transition phase. This gap is what? Transition phase. Transition phase. This gap is transition. Okay. Now, this is a period of almost 900 years. Is this a prolonged phase? Yes, 900 years. So in order to trace out the development, historians had divided it into two parts. Clear? इसको भी दो पार्ट में डिवाइड किया, and here they used this year 1000 BC 1000 BC to divide this phase. So this Vedic period has two parts. One is early part and the second is later part. So this Vedic period has two parts. One is what? Early part or phase. First is early part or phase, and the second is what? Later part or later phase. Later part or later phase. So early part or early phase will be called EVP, that is early Vedic period. So this part will be called EVP, early Vedic period, and this part will be called LVP, later Vedic period. Okay. First phase is called early Vedic period. The second phase is called later Vedic period. Got it? This early Vedic period is also called Rig Vedic period. This is also called Rig Vedic period. In chapter I will discuss why this is called Rig Vedic period. ठीक है ना? This is also known as Rig Vedic period. So, or Rig Vedic period. While discussing the theme, I will discuss this Rig Vedic period. Clear? Rig Vedic period. This is known as later Vedic period. So if I ask you that what is the time period of Rig Vedic phase, this is also called RVP, Rig Vedic period. So you will say 1500 to 1000 BC. This is early Vedic period. What is later Vedic period? So obviously this is also very simple. What is later Vedic period? So later Vedic period here is what? 1000 BC to 600 BC. Okay. So this is early Vedic period. This is later Vedic period. And most importantly, the exact date that when iron was discovered, okay, it's very difficult to make a guess because there is historical debates. So in general, we will say that near to this period, 1000 BC, near to this phase, what happened? Discovery of iron. So near to this phase, it means at the junction of Rig Vedic period and later Vedic period. At the junction of these two phases, near to these two phases, what we discuss, what we see here, use of iron, discovery and use of iron started. Discovery and use of iron started at the junction of early Vedic and later Vedic. दोनों के बीच में, Vedic period के बीच में, कहीं in between, middle. 1000 BC, ये 950 भी हो सकता है, 1050 भी हो सकता है. So at the junction, what was discovered? Iron was discovered. Now tell me, discovery of iron and making of iron tool and implements, is it a more advanced cultural life? You can say this iron will bring revolutionary changes. So the discovery and use of iron will bring what? Revolutionary changes. In chapters we will discuss what are these revolutionary changes. Revolutionary changes. So this phase, Vedic period, especially the later Vedic period, this is called iron using culture also. So this is called what? Iron using culture also. This is called iron using. So here what we need to study? So cultural life of Vedic people. In this chapter, we need to study the cultural life of Vedic people. Cultural life means their political life, their economic life, their social life, right? Social life, and their religious life. Religious life, right? Political life, economic life, social life, and religious life. In 2023 mains, question was asked from this part, social and religious life. In 2023 GS paper 1 mains exam, the question was asked from this part, social and religious life. Got it? So we need to understand here. Now second important thing we need to understand is that this period is important for what? Literature. So this literature, Vedic period literature, is classical. And we need to discuss in detail about this Vedic period literature. Okay. Society mein what was the important development, caste system and all this literature, all this we need to study in detail. Okay, so we need to discuss this literature also. Now, the next chapter is Mahajanpada era. Write this. That's the next chapter. Next chapter is Mahajanpada era. And this time period of this development of this phase of history is 600 BC to 300 BC period. It means this is a phase of almost 300 years, 600 BC and 300 BC period. 600 BC, 300 BC period. So here we are using a word Mahajanpadas. Mahajanpada word is used for bigger states. This is used for bigger states. So this is what are the topics here? So this is the phase of state formation in ancient India. So this we need to understand. Phase of state formation in ancient India. There were monarchical states and there were republics also. These republics are also monarchical states, but these are monarchical states with some democratic features or aspects. So we need to discuss these two category of states, right? So this is a phase of state formation in ancient India, and here there were 16 republics. Okay, and in this sense India is called mother of democracy in the world, because India witnessed the earliest republics in the world. So that is the important part, right? So with this sense we called it. So this is what? Republic. So this is one chapter. The second chapter that we need to study here is that rise of new religions during this period. Rise of new religions during this period. And new religions में the important ones are Buddhism, Jainism, and Ajivakas. Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivakas. So we need to study this rise of new religions. Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivakas. Okay. Now, the early dynasties were seen here. The early dynasties were seen here. So we need to understand Ajivakas. Ajivaka. So these are three most important Ajivakas sect. Okay. So we'll discuss. Got it? Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivaka. So early dynasties. Now here we also need to study early dynasty, and that early dynasty is Haryak dynasty. That is Haryak dynasty, Shishunag dynasty, Haryak dynasty, Shishunag dynasty, and Nanda dynasty. Nanda dynasty. Whatever I am writing here, so this all is in chronological order. For example, this is HD, Haryak dynasty, then Shishunag dynasty, then Nanda dynasty. So this is in chronological order. So you don't need to remember the years. Only remember the chronology. HSN, Haryak, Shishunag and Nanda dynasty. Okay. So we need to study that. Haryak, Shishunag and Nanda dynasty. Got it? Now there is one more development here. Are you writing the points? Which topic which we need to understand here? The fourth important point here is that earliest invasions in ancient India took place here. Earliest invasions. यहाँ पे earliest invasions भी हुए. Earliest invasions took, and these invasions were Ecumenian and Greek invasions. Ecumenian and Greek invasions. These are the earliest invasions. When we are using this word Ecumenian, it means we are talking about Persian or Iranian invasion. We are talking about the Persian and Iranian invasion. So these Iranian Empire, Persian Empire, Ecumenian Empire was the first global empire of the world. Right? Ecumenian Empire was the first global empire of the world. इसके बाद ग्रीक एम्पायर आता है, दैट इज द सेकेंड ग्लोबल एम्पायर ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. So in ancient India, Achaemenian invasions, Greek invasions will take place. So we need to study about these invasions also. Earliest invasions in India: Darius, Darius, Xerxes, okay, Alexander. So we need to study these invasions. Now this phase is state formation era. So obviously, what about the economic development and prosperity? This will grow or not? Yes, bigger states में क्या होगा? Economic activities will prosperous. So this phase is the phase of urbanization. Okay, and here also you can write one point. Indus Valley civilization, this was the phase of first urbanization in India. This was the phase of first urbanization in India. So Indus Valley civilization was urban phase. This was the phase of first urbanization. So here also we will read about economic development, economic prosperity, trade and commerce. In the same way, this period, Mahajanpada era, is what? Phase of second urbanization. Right? This was the phase of second urbanization in India. So obviously we need to study about the economic development during this period. Economic development during this period. So these are the themes that we need to study. These three chapters are the most important chapters in ancient Indian history. You will get frequent questions from Buddhism, Jainism. Questions on republics are quite common. Keywords from the economic developments during this period is quite common. Clear? Okay. Now, the next phase of history is called Mauryan period. Okay. Next phase of history is called Mauryan period or Mauryan phase. Okay. So we are writing the next phase of history, and that is what? Mauryan period or Mauryan phase. So what is the time period? So that is general timeline is 300 BC to 200 BC. This is not exactly 100 year, it's more than that, but we are taking a general timeline. This is the Mauryan period, 300 BC to 200 BC. And here we see what? Okay, Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire. So this Mauryan Empire first time may be called as the first central powerful authority in India. First central powerful authority. It means they were successful in bringing political unity to India. So obviously we need to discuss these Mauryan dynasty and its Mauryan dynasty and its rulers. Now one ruler is famous here, Chandragupta Maurya. So we need to study in detail Chandragupta Maurya, and the another ruler that is very famous here is Ashoka. So this Ashoka is also known for his cultural achievements. So we need to discuss Ashoka also. First time in ancient India, an elaborate bureaucratic system and structure was introduced by Ashoka, and we are still using, okay, that model of administration. Still some words that were used during the Ashoka's times are continued. So that is a classical form of administration that was introduced by Ashoka. Ashoka was also known for his liberal religious outlook. Ashoka known for his cultural achievements. So we need to study this entire chapter, right? Okay, Ashoka. Mauryan period. This is an important chapter. So we'll discuss here the important cultural developments that took place during the Mauryan period. Now the next chapter was later Mauryan phase. Later Mauryan phase. Later Mauryan phase. So now what happened in later Mauryan phase? We are using a word later Mauryan. Why? Because here we see what? Absence of a central political authority. No dynasty in India could be called as a, okay, central ruler. Okay, so here we see what? Why we are using this word later Mauryan. Just in Gupta period we use the word Gupta period. It means there was a powerful dynasty Gupta that could be called as the central political authority. But after Gupta we are using the word post Gupta. Again, what we see? The absence of a central political authority. So when you use such kind of words, later Mauryan, post Gupta, so it shows what? Absence of, it shows what? Absence of central political authority. This shows what? Absence of central political authority. It means India was ruled by different rulers. Different parts of India was ruled by different rulers. Different parts of India was ruled by different rulers at that time. Right? Different part of India was ruled by different rulers at that time. Now, another important thing. If there will be absence of a central political authority, do you think that external invasions will increase? Yes or no? In Mauryan period, the external invasions will stop or they will be minimized. In later Mauryan period, the external invasions will increase. So here we see external invasions. Since there is the absence of central powerful authority, so here we see external invasion. Invasions of ISPK. Invasions of ISPK. What are these ISPK? So write this. I means Indo-Greeks. Again, it is in chronological order. I means Indo-Greeks. S stands for Sakas. P stands for Pehlavas. P stands for Pehlavas and K stands for Kushanas. So the foreign invasions will increase. Here what will happen? Foreign invasions will increase. Why they will increase? Because there is the absence of a central political authority. वो है ही नहीं. Right? So the foreign invasions will increase because of absence of central political authority. Got it? ISPK, Indo-Greek, Shakas, Pehlavas and Kushanas. Okay, so these are important invasions. Now can you make a chronology here that in Mahajanpad era, Ekmanian invasion, then you can write ISPK. So this during the Mahajanpad era and this during the LMP, later Mauryan phase. Here, and next set of invasions is Hun invasion, H, that will take place during the Gupta period. So just draw it in a box. This all is in chronological order. This is a PYQ also. This is a UPSC PYQ also, where the invaders were asked to arrange in a chronological order. Now you can simply give this answer that first Ekmanians, then Greeks, then Indo-Greeks. What is the difference between Greeks and Indo-Greeks? I will discuss later. Then Shakas, then Pehlavas, then Kushanas. So these are the invaders. That is a chronological order. That is a PYQ also. Okay. Here I am writing Ekmanian and Greeks. Here we are writing Indo-Greeks. So the difference I will discuss later. Then Shakas, then Pehlavas, then Kushan. Now, an important point here is that during later Mauryan period, invaders came to India, and what they did? They adopted Indian cultural practices and religious beliefs. They adopted the culture of India. They did not try to change, or they did not try to forcefully impose their culture on Indian people. They will come, they will accept Indian religions, practices and cultures. So these foreign groups who came to India, they later became Indianized. That is the most important point. They later became Indianized. ये Indianized हो गए. And many of these groups became Indian rulers. ये Indian rulers हो गए. They became Indianized. They did not try to impose their culture. But when you enter into medieval India, when you will read Sultanate period, you will find that permanent association of Muslims with India started during this period. Okay. And some rulers during the Sultanate period, this entire Sultanate period, the state religion was Islam. The rulers were Muslim, and some of these rulers tried to promote forceful conversion. Okay, so on a majority of population, they tried to impose the cultural practices of Islam. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, right? Sikandar Lodi, they were the most radical rulers in this context. So this is an important difference between ancient and medieval period. That in ancient period, invaders came to India, they invaded different parts of India, and later they adopted Indian cultural practices and traditions. They were Indianized. Okay, so that is an important point. So obviously they were Indianized. It means we will learn something from their culture and they will learn something from our culture. That is called cultural interaction. So when different foreign groups will come to India, obviously they are coming in the form of invaders, but this will promote cultural interaction. This will also promote economic prosperity. That is an important point, that cultural interaction during this period, economic prosperity during this period. So the questions are asked from this part, especially when any Marxist historian is framing questions, he will definitely ask questions from cultural interactions, selecting different developments in historical phases. They will select particular events. Okay, because Marxist historians believe that the one of the reason for our prosperous cultural heritage is our interaction with the different cultural groups. So what will happen here? Cultural interaction. So that chapter is very important from culture point of view. So write this: cultural interactions and impact of these cultural interactions during this period. Cultural interaction and impact of these cultural interactions during this period. Cultural interactions and impact of the cultural interactions during this period. So that is very important. Okay, now देखो, in later Mauryan period there will be two group of rulers. One group or one category is called local rulers or indigenous rulers. Local rulers or indigenous rulers. And the second group or the second category is called, okay, foreign invaders who later became Indian rulers, or were Indianized. So there are two group of rulers. In one group we will see different Indian rulers, indigenous rulers ruling different part of India. And the second group, what we see, that the foreign rulers, different foreign rulers who came to India, they became Indian rulers and they were ruling different parts of India. So here in the local rulers, the dynasties which are important that we should know is known as, write this, one dynasty is Sunga dynasty. The second is Kanva dynasty. These are local rulers, all in during this later Mauryan phase. And the third is Satavahana dynasty. So always remember that Sunga, Kanva and Satavahana belong to the group of local rulers during the later Mauryan period. So that is Sunga, Kanva and Satavahana. So obviously we should know about the basic fact and information about these dynasties. So obviously we will discuss this in class. Sunga, Kanva and Satavahana. And what about the group of foreign rulers? So these are ISPK, Indo-Greek, Shak, Pahlav and Kushan. They were also ruling different part of India. And out of these four, which one became the most important one, or which group became the most Indianized? So Kushan, right? This Kushan was the most Indianized group. And The most popular ruler among Kushana was Kanishk, and Kanishk had important cultural achievements, so that this topic is very important. Kanishk. So from this part, which topic is important from cultural aspect? So that is Kushana rulers. For example, in ancient India, there was a very famous trade route that was known as Silk Route. And who was dominating this Silk Route? Kushanas were dominating this Silk. So Kanishk was having a liberal outlook. Kanishk had important cultural achievements. So any ruler who is having significant cultural achievement will be important for us to study. So Kanishk is important with this respect. Now in this group, Tung, Kanva and Satvana, which is the most important topic, highlight the topic. Satvana rulers, they had important cultural achievements. So this topic is the most important, and here Kushana's topic is the most important. So local rulers mein Satvanas is the most important topic, and group of invaders who became the local rulers. So there Kanishka and the Kushana is the most important topic that we need to study. Got it? Obviously, what is the most important point here? Read this. The another important theme that we need to study here. So read this: economic prosperity and economic development during this period. Economic development and prosperity during this period. And second important point is, right, okay, cultural interaction between north and south during this period. This we need to understand. That what is the cultural interaction north and south? The cultural interaction was growing. There was a megalithic cultural phase also. Sangam literature also. Sangam age in South India also. So we'll discuss all this here. North-South cultural interactions, how they were growing. Is it clear? I hope you have understood the theme. We will discuss the topic, and there will be many sub-themes and other debates I will discuss in classes. But I hope you are getting a general idea here. The time period, sorry. The time period I have not written here. So write time period. Time period is 200 BC to 300 AD. Now I have changed here. I am not writing BC. We have shifted to AD. So this is the development here. 200 BC to 300 AD. This is BC, this is AD. So this is the time period of how many years? 500 years. This is like the, you can say, in schools we have studied about this na, the number line like this, 0. ये पढ़ा ना आपने, right? Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is -1, -2, -3. In the same way, BC and AD. Okay, BC AD ऐसे ही है. For example, if I write here 5300 BC, and if I write here 100 BC, okay, so 300 BC is the earliest phase, 100 BC is the later phase. तो यहाँ reverse जाता है. And when we come to plus, this is what 100 AD, 200 AD, 300 AD. We are moving, okay, ahead. So in this way you need to understand. Technical definition I will discuss later. फिलहाल तो इससे आप number line और integers को जैसे arrange करते हो वैसे समझ. This is the phase of almost 500 years. So there are important cultural development during this. Now the next phase is Gupta period, Gupta age. So this is clear. There is a powerful central authority, and that is what? Gupta rulers. So obviously we need to study about the basic historical facts, important rulers, important Gupta rulers and their achievements, important Gupta rulers and their achievement. So this we need to study. Important Gupta rulers and their achievement. So the time period here will be 300 AD to 500 AD or 550 AD. Both you can write. It means this is from 300 AD to 500, 550 AD. Clear? There are terms like North India, Deccan, South India. I will also discuss that. Okay. So this is 300 AD to 500, 550 AD. Now look here. Technical definition I will discuss later. यहाँ पे ये समझ लो that here The Sunga rulers and Kanva rulers were ruling north. These are the local rulers. Sunga and Kanva ruling north. And Satavahanas were ruling Deccan. I will discuss later what is the basic difference between all this. So Sunga and Kanva were ruling north. Satavahanas were ruling Deccan. Local rulers में हम बात कर रहे हैं. Sunga Kanva ruling north and Satavahanas were ruling Deccan region. And this is far south. This is what? Far south or extreme south. Far south or extreme south. Now in Gupta period, what we see that in north, who was ruling? Basically Guptas. And Deccan region, this is Deccan region, it was ruled by Vakataka rulers. So here we need to understand two topics, discuss two topics. One is the Gupta rulers and the second is the Vakataka rulers. So these are the two important topics here. Gupta rulers and Vakataka rulers. दोनों ही पढ़ना है. Gupta rulers and the Vakataka rulers. Got it? We are not talking about far south or the remote south. अभी उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे. Okay. Sunga and Kanva in the north. Draw rough sketches. पहले rough sketches से idea बनाना है. Then we will start learning the maps. Sunga and Kanva in north. Satavahanas in Deccan region. And these three groups are the local rulers group. So you map especially in that context. We are not talking about far south here. Okay. Sunga Kanva ruling north and Satavahanas ruling Deccan. Now, the next one, here what we see that Guptas are ruling mainly north. Some Gupta ruler, for example, Samudragupta, will also conquer territories in the south. But we are writing here mainly north. Vakatakas ruling Deccan region. Got it? This is Gupta period. 300 to 500, 550 AD. Concept मैं बाद में discuss करूँगा. Then the next is post-Gupta phase. Post-Gupta phase. What is the time period? Very simple. 550 AD to 750 AD. This is what? Post-Gupta period. And if we are using this word post-Gupta, it means what? Absence of central political authority. It means what? Political fragmentation. This also means what? Political fragmentation. This is post-Gupta period. So we will discuss here important developments during post-Gupta. So basically the topic that we need to discuss here is important developments during post-Gupta. Early medieval में हम enter नहीं कर रहे. We are not entering early medieval right now. I will discuss it later. Now, there is another part, that is far south or extreme south. This is north. This is Deccan region. Later I will discuss what is the parameter, how we are dividing, and this is what? Far south or extreme south. So in this part, far south and extreme south, again we need to study some chapters. I will discuss timeline later during the classes. One is megalithic phase of cultural history. So when we discuss megalithic culture, so this is especially in context with remote south. Then we will discuss what? Sangam age. And here we will see what? Early state formation in South India. Early state formation in South India. And here you will read about Cheras, Pandyas and Cholas. Cheras, Pandyas and Cholas. इनके बारे में आप पढ़ोगे. Got it? Cheras, Cholas and Pandyas. Important cultural achievements of these rulers. So that is related to which phase? This part. The time period I will discuss later in the classes, because when you will understand the history in the north, you will be able to relate to those times. Have you got a general idea? एक general idea आपको मिला ancient India. And when I will discuss the entire history, this part, then I will discuss with you development of art in ancient India. We will discuss development of sculpture in ancient India. We will discuss development of rock cut cave architecture in ancient India. We will discuss development of temples in ancient India. So this I will discuss when I will finish this entire discussion. So whenever I will get such topics, sculpture, temple, I will skip, and when I will finish this entire part, I will discuss with you the important cultural development of the art forms, various art forms, artifacts, sculptures, temples. So this is not complete syllabus. Obviously there will be subtopics also, but I think that you have got a general idea, okay, about the developments. Now tell me the timeline. Well, let's revise the theme once again. So what is the phase of prehistory? Prehistoric phase, tell me, unmute yourself and give the answer. Prehistoric phase, what is the timeline? Without taking help of the notes. Those who are able to recall, they will. I am talking about prehistory, entire phase. I am not talking about Paleolithic. Prehistoric phase, don't take help of notes. Very good. 5 lakh BC to 4000 BC. Now I am asking another question. Paleolithic period, what is the time period? Very good, very good, very good. What is the Mesolithic period time phase? Okay. What is the Neolithic period time phase? 8000 to 4000. What is the Chalcolithic period time period? Very good. And what is the Bronze Age time period? Very good. And what is the Indus Valley civilization time period? The same. Same, right? What is the Vedic cultural time period? 600 BC. What is EVP, early Vedic period time period? Exactly, 1000 BC. What is LVP time period? 1000 BC to 600 BC. What is Mahajanpada era time period? 300 BC period. What is Mauryan period? 300 BC to 200 BC. What is later Mauryan phase? AD. Okay, here we are shifting from BC to AD. What is Gupta period? 500 or 550. What is post Gupta? 550 to 750. What is the name of group of local rulers during the later Mauryan period? कौन कौन से थे local rulers? Kanva and Satvana, right? Tunga and Kanva were ruling north. Satvahanas were ruling Deccan. And name of invaders who became the rulers in later Mauryan phase? ISPK. And chronological order of invasion, first invasion took place during which period? 600 300 BC. पहला तो वहां है ना, Mahajanpada era, Achaemenian and Greek invasions, right? And next set of invasion during later Mauryan period, that is what? ISPK, Indo-Greek Shak Pahlav and Kushan. Got it? And what is the next invasion? Yes, please. नहीं वहां पे जो डिटेल आएगा बताऊंगा. अलेक्जेंडर इन्वेजन, दैट इज 326 एंड ऑल दिस. फिलहाल आप क्या याद रखेंगे? मेगास्थनीज, आई विल डिस्कस दैट लेटर. कि सेलुकस निगेटर जो था ना, वो मिलिट्री कमांडर इन चीफ था अलेक्जेंडर का. ठीक है, वो स्टोरी समझोगे तो आपको पता लगेगा, राइट? दैट वो लौट रहा था तो उसने वो एम्पायर इसको दिया था. गॉट इट? वो क्लासेस में समझेंगे. फिलहाल आप याद रखो महाजनपदा एरा, एक इन्वेजन यहाँ है, दैट इज एक्मेनियन एंड ग्रीक. देन लेटर मौर्यन फेज में दैट इज ISPK. देन गुप्ता पीरियड में देर इज हून इन्वेजन. ओके, तो लेटर मौर्यन फेज इन्वेडर्स आर ISPK. ठीक है. अच्छा, इन 600 300 BC period, the dynasties, early dynasties were the early dynasties? Haryak, Sishunaga and Nanda dynasty. Mauryan period में which dynasty? Mauryan dynasty. Later Mauryan में we will come, then there is Sunga, Kanva and Satvana dynasty. Then we will read about Indo-Greek, Shakas, Pehlavas and Kushanas. Gupta period we will read about Guptas. In post Gupta we will read some dynasties during the post Gupta period. वो देखेंगे. Got it? And in South Indian history, which are the important topics? One is megalithic culture, then Sangam age, development of early states like Cheras, Cholas and Pandyas and their history. This we need to study. This is a brief outline. So from the next class, I will start with the very first chapter, that is prehistoric age. What are the important developments in those prehistoric? We will learn that. Then we will read about Indus Valley civilization. I will discuss about the sources and the books once I will finish at least 2 chapters. Okay, then you will be able to relate what I am suggesting you. नहीं तो अभी फिर आपको लगेगा कि मैं गलत सजेशन दे रहा हूँ. So once I will finish 1 or 2 chapters, you will look at the PYQs, you will develop or build the concepts, you will start understanding NCERT books. So I will tell you which chapter from which NCERT book to read. Okay, so I will discuss the sources with you after concluding at least 1 or 2 chapters. Got it? Okay, so if you have any doubt, you may ask me. Okay, any question, any doubt, you may ask me. Not regarding the chapters and the details, because that I will discuss later. Any other doubt? Okay, have any questions? No? Right. Thanks to all of you. See you in the next class.